Hey, welcome to Santaroga Surplus. We're still working on videos in a firestorm, I guess, like ashfall. And we got a couple things to talk about. I did have a surgery on my bicep to reattach it recently, and I can now straighten the arm out. You know, I'm very limited in what I can do. And one of the things I've been doing as part of my personal prescribed physical therapy while I'm shooting one-handed, right-handed, is doing more flankirovka, okay, and shashkarovka. Basically, sword spinning, alright? Irish sword dancing is, let me move this just a tiny bit. There we go, a little bit. So Irish sword dancing is the thing where you put cross swords on the ground and you dance patterns around them. Well, Caucasian sword dancing, so to speak, and we'll argue terminology later, involves spinning the swords around and dancing. And if you Google flankirovka, F-L-A-N-K-I-R-O-V-K-A, you'll see lots of videos, mostly of very pretty girls with very long sabers doing it. Well, you can also do flankirovka with shorter blades. So this is a short practice shashka saber made out of a machete, actually. It's ground out of a Colombian machete. The guy who does this does pretty decent work. He's on Etsy. I got to talk to him about a couple of spots where he chewed up the blade a little bit with his belt grinder, you know, and I could do this if I want to get the belt grinder set up again while I'm in the middle of moving between states, but he does a good job. Like, it's worth giving him the $39 for a $8 Colombian machete and the work he puts into it. Decent, no sheath, no big deal. He does go a little bit close to the handle here with the sharpening, so you have to take that down a little bit, because if you're actually flanking, excuse me, the air is really bad. If you're actually flanking, you're gripping up here on the blade, not all the way down here. And there's a military style of spinning where you're going to keep your grip, and then there's the actual flankirovka. You're going to be up here because you're going to have a much better time with the spinning. This is pretty decent. This has a 22-inch blade, which is very short as far as it goes. 32 is about right for what I'm... And a kinjal, which is a short, stabby thing. It's not quite a short sword, but it's not really a dagger. It's a kinjal. They're right up there, you know. Quite often, you'll have blade lengths of anywhere from 14 to 20 inches. So, this is a neat piece, but it is, realistically, it's a child-sized piece, unless you're doing your flanking with a Russian military babuk, which is a modification of the kinjal into a short sword for use in trench warfare, and it's just a little bit longer and has a little bit of the saber curve. Okay, and again, your blade length gets up into that 20-inch range instead of being closer to 14. I think this one's technically 19. The military pattern, and kizlyar in Russia actually does serialized military pattern work with. So you've got the babut, you've got shashka, actual military pattern sabers, and military pattern kinjals, and we'll talk about that in a moment. These are sharp, they're pointy, they're really pointy, and if you're just there for the dance, this is probably not where you want to start. That tip will destroy your calf. So, it's, you know, they are weapons made for a certain specific type of fighting. They're not made for armored sword fighting. They're not fencing. But if you need to stab people who are wearing clothing, including thick clothing, they're pretty good. You know, they're pretty good. You can do a goat test. I've done goat tests, and they go right in and out the back really easily. So that's that. But what we're going to talk about now a little bit is Windlass. So Windlass in India, Windlass Steelworks, they've been doing reproduction knives and swords for a very long time. I used to drool over their catalog in frickin' Saudi Arabia in 1990 when I was doing nothing on watch, right? Like, they've been around for a while. This is one of their projects that I'm working on. It's a smatch it, theoretically made off of an original pattern, but the handle is just so unusable. I am in the process of tuning it up, you know, and that's why the blade's all taped up. Almost worth the price. Almost. So a smatch it, oddly enough, is just a heavy and unsophisticated kinjal. In a way, it's or a bushcraft kinjal, if you want to think of it that way. And you know, I'll talk about this a little bit more. I might do a couple videos with this. This is why I left knife making when I had been doing it for a decade, is because I wanted to get more into specific weaponry, but I didn't want to deal with the Teenage Mutant Ninja nerds. Okay? They're not turtles, they're nerds. You know, someone's going to tell me this isn't a real kinjal, or this isn't how you really hold it, or if you're going to do flankirovka, you never do this. You can't use this length blade. Oh my god. The best thing about saber and kinjal and babut and kama and all that sword dancing is that there are so many countries, so many individual ethnic identities, so many subcultures, and so many different things going on between the Muslim and the Orthodox and the animists. You can do just about anything, and there's no holy sacred lineage to prevent you from doing something else also. So you can do a lot. And, you know, for example, I talk about how flanking's not even the proper translation, but it's just what we call it. Flanking with a military grip is very different, especially if you keep your hand on the grip. The camera's not very good for this one right now. As opposed to the flanking grip. You know, a lot of people are going to probably give me a bunch of shit about making the distinction, and they'll say that there's only one way to do it, and it's just not true. There's at least 20 different ways to do everything with this. So Windlass makes this. This is from Windlass, and it's called Cobra Steel. Oh my god. So if you want to feel what a kinjal is, but about 20% heavier than it should be, just a little bit thicker than it really should be, but relatively durable, as far as I can tell. I've done a little bit of bending and beating on it. This is probably a good way to go. It's going to cost very little, and it's going to come with this piece of crap sheath. Holy piece of crap sheath. But you can get a good feel for how these handle, okay, and the theory of the modern short sword, long dagger idea. The rubber grip is a little bit janky in traditional terms, and you know, the blade will flex, okay? It won't flex as much as I really want it to, and it flexes a little bit more here than I really want it to, which long-term longevity makes me curious about what's inside that rubber handle, as opposed to this one from Kizlyar, which is the military pattern, and it has a little bit less weight. It has the buttons for the different grips in the rivets in the proper places. Much better grip overall. A little bit shorter, actually. So the windlass is definitely longer and more into the short sword idea of what we're dealing with. And there's some really cool stuff you can do with that. The kizlyar is nice, but you can buy 4 of the windlass for one of these, so that is kind of a problem for a lot of people. I've never had a problem with Windlass Steel. I've always had a problem with their construction, their fit, their finish. Their sheaths are horrible. Uniformly horrible. Actually, the smatched sheath is not that bad, but it's still horrible. If they were 20% less, if their prices were 20% less, I would tell you to just get this stuff, grind on it, sand on it, file it, make it work for you, make it better, do good sheaths. It's kind of like old hickory knives. Like, it's always worth buying an old hickory knife because you can always make it into a good kitchen knife. You may have to reprofile it, you may have to re-soak the scales, you may have to replace the handle entirely, but it's a really good piece of steel for the price, especially used. Windlass. The steel's not bad, usually. Sorry, once again, it's Governor Gavin Newsom's hairspray. Alright, I'm allergic to it. The steel's not bad. The prices are just about 20% more than I really want them to be for something that is going to be a project if you know anything about your knives. That's all. It's just a video. I've been thinking about this a lot because I'm doing a lot more of the flanking as part of my physical therapy after the surgery to keep the arm, keep the shoulder mobile, and build up strength and, you know, get the feeling back. My whole arm was numb because of nerve trauma. Not damage, but trauma. Like, you push the nerves around when you're in doing the surgery. And so, that's the thing. So I thought I'd talk about it just a little bit. I'm not going to do any demos on this one. I might go back into it. I might really go back into it. I really enjoy it. The theory and practice and placement and carry and why and where and what and how of the modern short sword is actually near and dear to my heart. It's something I think about. It's something I actually practice when I'm at the range. I'm a very left-handed person, which sucks because I had a left-handed bicep tear. But I shoot right-handed and knife left-handed, and I'm always messing with that when I'm doing active range stuff. So, something to think about. Maybe you should look up flankirovka, or flanking, on YouTube, and look at pretty girls with long swords, and then maybe leave a comment here, and we can talk more about this if you are so inclined. The kizlyar stuff mostly comes from Legion USA, and it's good. It's really good quality stuff. Not what you want to start practicing. If you want to start practicing, you're probably just going to end up on Etsy looking for homemade, handmade practice swords. Some of them come from Russia or the Ukraine. Cossack sword, one word, Cossack sword, is actually a really good Etsy shop. Their practice blades are like birch. They're extremely light, but they're good, and their videos are approachable. I'm not going to say that their instructional videos are the best, but they're definitely not the worst. They're approachable, they break things down very well. They do a good job of making the practice swords, but they are, just in my opinion, they're a little bit too light long term. They're really, really good at first. They're really good for not hurting yourself. They're really good for kids. They're really good for... I mean, I carry one in every vehicle just to, like, randomly practice. But they're a little bit light for getting into advanced, fast moves with metal sabers. Like, if you're using it to practice for using a shashka, you need to get a practice shashka that's actually got a steel blade, just a dulled steel blade, because the stuff you get from Kizlyar is just insane. You'll cut your head off. Great stuff. Stay safe, you know. Don't forget your domestic terrorism label. Whether you got the vaccine or not, you might celebrate the 9/11 tragedy, and that is a new sign, according to the DHS, of domestic terrorism. So watch your watch list, guys.